Hello, family caregivers. Welcome to Me Help Momma Podcast. Thanks for joining us today. This is edition number 1. We're glad you're here. Glad you found us. My name is Doug Jones, and this is my wife, Cynthia Orlichek Jones. And the intention of this podcast is to build a community resource for family caregivers. If you're watching this on Facebook today, we're glad you found us. Like I say, this will be our podcast, and we're going to be doing this every week. Our goal with this podcast is to help you utilize the resources in the community and incorporate them in your daily life and realize you're not alone on this caregiver journey. There's a bunch of us out there. I think AARP says there's like 40 million family caregivers. So if you're one of them and you're watching this today or listening to this today, we're glad that you're here. Today we're going to talk about the Family Caregiver Bridge of Life.
Okay, so I'm going to put this into context. Life is kind of like an interstate, traveling down, let's say, Interstate 10 from Florida to California. Even when you're young, you're raising your family, you go on vacations, going down the interstate, you take exits here and there and everywhere to stop and eat, go to the bathroom, go visit sites along the way, and the miles just click on by. As you get toward the end of the journey, you come to this big long bridge. Now, what's the difference there? There are no exits off of that bridge. So when we talk about the bridge of life, that's kind of what we're talking about here. Toward the end of life, the last few years, and you're going to encounter many, many different issues. And they may come at you suddenly. They may be drastic. It may be gradual. Who knows? It's your caregiver journey. You're caring for your loved one. So our goal here is to help you be prepared for the issues that you face along that caregiver bridge of life. And we have broken this down into 4 different journey stops.
Okay, journey stop 1 is where if you're one of the adult kids, and kids, you may be in your 50s, you may be in your 60s, you may be in your 40s, but you stop by and visit with mom or dad every once in a while, but then here lately you notice things are just a little bit different, and you stop by and you think, something's changing. Mom is not quite at herself, or something's going on. You just really don't know what, and it gets to the point where on the way to work, You leave your home a little extra early, stop by and check on mom on the way to work, stop by and check on her again coming home, because you just don't feel right not checking on her. You think, I'm worried. Maybe she hasn't eaten breakfast, maybe she hasn't taken her meds, could be she's fallen out of bed, may need help getting into the restroom. And this is what we call journey stop 1. It's at the point where initially we say 1 to 3 hours a day, and toward the beginning of journey stop 1, probably closer to 1 hour a day, just stopping by on the way to work, stopping by on the way home. And then it may get to the point where maybe I better have a neighbor or another relative just to pop in the middle of the work day around noon, and just for a few seconds to see if everything's okay and give me a call. And this is journey stop 1, where you checking on them pretty regular. Toward the end of journey stop 1, it's probably taking like 3 hours a day, and just to make sure everything's okay.
Journey stop number 2 is what we call the serious time stage. And this is serious time if you've got a full-time job and you've got a family at home and you've got a loved one that you are the caregiver for. 3 to 6 hours a day. Now, how are you going to spend that time? Usually on your way to work. If you live close to your loved one, you may run over there at noon, and then when you come by in the afternoon, you may stay there several hours. Again, you're checking to make sure they've eaten, they're taking their medications, that they have food to eat when they want it, they can prepare it easily, maybe not have to cook it on the stove. At this point, you need to become familiar with the different resources in the community. If you are not able to be there with them all 6 hours that they may need help, then look at perhaps the in-home non-medical service providers in your area. We will talk later about how to find those, how to interview them, how much they cost, how to pay for them. Also become familiar with things like adult daycare. It's kind of like a daycare for children, but it is for adults. Check to see whether there's medical transportation. At this point, you're going to want to line up family members and friends that can be there in case you cannot be there or if you have to go out of town. Because this is a serious time commitment. You need to seriously put a plan in place.
And that was Journey Stop 2, 3 to 6 hours a day. And toward the end of Journey Stop 2, this is where a lot of family caregivers kind of, hit the moment of truth. It's like, what am I going to do? Am I going to quit my job? Am I going to, get more help? Can Mom afford more help? This is honestly the point where a lot of family caregivers do quit their job, and sometimes at a pretty tremendous financial cost to themselves, just because they feel like they need to be there with their parent all the time, which is Journey Stop 3. Journey Stop 3 is the health has deteriorated to the point where caregivers are required 24/7 all the time. Someone is there full time, and you, obviously, if you're the family caregiver, you can't be on 24/7, although we see a lot of them that try to be there. Try to be there 24/7, and
brings them down.
A lot of times they just burn out. They hit the wall, and a lot of times they being the caregiver, start exhibiting health decline, health issues. I had a nurse not tell me long ago that said if you've got any type of latent diseases in your body, cancer or any number of other things, and you're experiencing a significant amount of stress, like caregiver would be, a family caregiver 24/7 would be a significant amount of stress. A lot of times it activates those latent diseases and causes significant health issues for the caregiver. So if you're at that point in time right now, know that you've got to take care of you, because if you, the caregiver, go down, well, then it's bad times for everybody. But Journey Stop 3 is 24/7, somebody being there full time, and for some folks that's as far as it gets. I know for Cindy was caregiver for her mom, and that just went through Journey Stop 3, and then her mom passed away, didn't get to Journey Stop 4. So these don't always follow in 1, 2, 3, 4. Cindy's got a cousin now that she went from Journey Stop 1, then immediately to Journey Stop 4, which she's going to talk about next, and then back to 2, then to 3, then to 1, now to 4 again. So sometimes they bounce around all over the place. That's where you need to be familiar with these and know what you need to do at each Journey Stop.
Journey Stop number 4 is where you transition. You have decided that you can no longer care for your loved one at home, providing 24-hour-a-day care, and bringing other individuals in, perhaps a service to help provide the care, may not be an option for whatever reason. You and your loved one have made the decision that they will transfer to an institution or a facility. We are going to talk at some point about the different types of facilities. And at this point, there are several different levels, so it will depend upon your loved one's physical abilities and their cognitive abilities, which facility that they would go into. I'm going to give you a brief overview about how to find the facilities. It will depend a lot, on their cognitive and physical abilities. So the physician, geriatric physician or primary care physician, will typically make a recommendation as to the level of care that they need. We are going to go into great detail about the different levels of care and what you need to look for and how to determine if you think they need that level of care and they're not seeing a doctor or haven't seen them recently. Then you start doing the research, finding the specific level of care that you think they will qualify for based on what you learn. And then you Google and find the facilities in your area, visit the top 3, and we'll show you some criteria to look at, questions to ask, and then you choose the facility. We will also talk about the payer sources. How do you pay for these types of care? Because the more care that is required, typically the more expensive they are. We'll talk about also there are private options. Even in our area, there are literally private homes that have 3 to 5 residents for the different levels, specifically assisted living and skilled care. And it's better than a facility of 150 or 200 people because they're going to get a lot more hands-on care. We also want you to learn about hospice at this point because you are your loved one's advocate. You're no longer their caregiver. They are caregivers provided in the facility that your loved one transitions to, but you become their eyes, their ears, and their mouth, and you speak out for your loved one.
So, Cindy mentioned comments. If you have comments, this is our podcast, but we're also putting it on our Facebook page today, a Facebook Livecast. If you have questions or comments, please leave them below. And I know most of you watch these live casts later in the day because when they appear, you're busy, you're doing stuff, and I understand that. But if you're watching this later on this evening, just type in your questions or comments and we'll take them up in another podcast, and we really appreciate that. And I know your family caregivers do as well because you're in the trenches, you're doing it, and the issues you're encountering are what other caregivers are encountering. So please leave your comments below on the Facebook page or go on our blog at helpmehelpmama.com and just leave your comments there. So we really appreciate that. Just a couple of things to wrap up, and we've just got a few more minutes here. Life Journey Plan. So tell them about the different elements of the Life Journey Plan.
Okay. The Bridge of Life has 3 primary components. The first component is the Life Journey Plan. It is what we've developed over 30 years of doing what we've been doing to help your loved one when they have the mental and physical ability to do this, to literally write down their plan. The Life Journey Plan element of it is where they want to be, who they want around them, who they don't want around them. It is their quality of life issues, and there are many things. It can be as simple as the clothing that you wear makes a huge difference in their quality of life. So the element number 1 is the Life Journey Plan. It's the touchy-feely things I want for me to make me happy.
And then number 2, and we'll just list them, number 2, number 3, and we're going to take these up in a lot greater depth in a future episode. Number 2 is a financial plan. You know, a lot of times people haven't even thought about that, and they get to retirement age, and then their health declines, and it's a mess. A lot of times they've got accounts spread out over 3 or 4 states. They got different type of accounts. Some of the money, it can only be drawn out with their signature, and if one of the spouses is already deceased and the other one's got Alzheimer's, that puts the kids in a pickle sometimes. They can't get access to mom or dad's money for mom or dad's benefit, which brings us into legal documents. What does your mom or dad have? What legal documents do they have? Do you know? And of course, if you ask them, they may not tell you, but it would be a good time to start the conversation. Do they have a power of attorney? 70% of America don't have anything, so it's a good time to determine what they do have, if anything, and maybe schedule an appointment with a local elder law attorney in their area to review what they have, if anything. If not, start the discussion as to what they need, if anything.
It's important to have these documents because in these documents they name surrogates that will take over for them in the event they become mentally or physically incapacitated and cannot carry on their own plan. So the people named in these legal documents step up to the plate and carry out the plan.
So the Life Journey Plan, what does mom or dad want? The financial plan, what finances do they have? Are the finances set up properly? Are they where other people can get to them? Are they finances, the money where they can be drawn out without incurring a big penalty or a big tax?
When you run out of money, you run out of options.
So, yeah, that's not a good thing.
So it needs to be able to stretch the money to fit the plan.
So the financial plan, a lot of times a good financial advisor can tweak the plan to make money last a lot longer without running out, which gives, you mentioned options, which gives people whose health is declining, gives them options. They have option, maybe you did a live cast yesterday on private care facilities.
Yeah.
And if
Private skilled care.
if you've got, if your money's structured properly, a lot of times that's private pay, then you can afford that, and a lot of times not, or private assisted living or home care that some people would like to have. So it's critical to talk with a financial advisor and the attorney and get those two working together, because that's what you was about to say. Because
it's a team effort.
We see it so often that, they don't talk to each other, and if the legal plan's going this way and a financial plan's going that way, those are two different ways, and they need to work. If they work together, they can be very powerful to get the results that your loved one needs and wants. So those are the elements of a life journey plan. And before we wrap up today, do you have any closing comments that we need to talk about?
Caregiving is one job, but it has many, many, many tasks. So I want to encourage you to take care of yourself, because if you get down, you can't take care of anyone. So take care of yourself. I thank you for being a caregiver for your loved one. Our goal is to help change things and to keep our loved ones at home as long as possible.
So thanks for joining this community of family caregivers. We really appreciate your involvement. Like this Facebook page, share it with other family caregivers, put your comments below, and thank you very much for your participation. We will see you next time on this Help Me Help Mama podcast, and we'll see you during the week on our Facebook page. Thanks. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you again soon.